I would just describe her as like one of the best people you're ever going to meet. She is going to change your life and make you a better person just knowing her. I know that is so cliche and corny to say, but it's absolutely true when it comes to Maxie, and it's rare to find somebody like that.
I mean, right away I was like, this girl can't be real. She's beautiful, she's so kind, she's putting it on for class, there's no way. And then the more I got to know her, the more I was like, oh, you just are the kindest person that exists. Like, this doesn't turn off, this just keeps going forever and ever.
I have no doubt when we watch some of the, like, Would I Lie to You, like some of those British shows together, I so see her being on those shows. It's not about the fame, but I just see her being acknowledged. I do imagine that she'll continue, and that the scope of who she touches will get bigger and wider. I so want for her to be seen in those ways. And because she's so funny and she's so smart and she's beautiful, and just for her to shine and to be seen that way, yeah.
So I was born in Montreal. My family moved to Ontario when I was about 4.5. I was mostly raised in Oakville until I was 14. We were on a really quiet street, a lot of neighbors in my age bracket. We would kind of play in everybody's backyards, and there's a lot of outside time, very 90s childhood. A lot of outside time, a lot of Pokemon, a lot of walking to the convenience store with our friends, and that was like the big trip of the day because we got to do it all by ourselves. And yeah, it was a very like quiet, peaceful sort of neighborhood.
I think she spent a lot of attention. Like, I remember watching her play in her room, or I'd be listening to her play, and she was so creative, like whether it was Barbies or, she'd set up these very elaborate scenes in her, with all of her toys, and have them speaking to each other. Like, it was like she was writing scripts and narrations, and yeah, it was really interesting to watch. So she was very creative. I'm sure a lot of kids are like that, but I really feel like she spent way more time in that. Yeah, and then coming up with these story ideas and putting them down on paper, sometimes with my help, sometimes on her own. She'd always have these ideas about things, like stories that she would create. Like, even, and still now, obviously, she's still like, it's like, I once told me that, and I'm sure a lot of authors say this, characters actually come, like they talk to her, and she gets these stories just coming to her. She might be trying to sleep at night or going for a walk, and that's when the inspiration comes through her. So it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, a lot of street hockey, a lot of people playing basketball in their driveways, and just all of the neighborhood kids getting together, me forcing them to put on plays in each other's backyards. Every August, there would be one of those traveling fairs that would come to the park across the street, and that was always the highlight of the summer. It felt so much bigger when we were kids, but we would go and, play games where we would like pop balloons with darts and go on very questionable roller coasters. And yeah, that was definitely something I looked forward to every summer before I hit double digits.
She put on shows with her sister. I remember we were at a Pizza Hut and they went into the bathroom. They spent a long time in the bathroom. When they came out, they had decorated themselves with toilet paper, toilet paper crown, toilet paper. So, and I think that was Maxie inspired because her sister was pretty young.
It was definitely the beginnings of the storytelling part of acting. Because at that point I wasn't thinking of it in terms of, oh, this is theater, this is acting. I was thinking of it in terms of using my neighborhood friends as basically living props to tell my stories. But it was definitely my first introduction to what it felt like to perform. I think at the time I was still quite afraid of that, but it was a good sort of segue into when it became more of a, okay, this is something I can get myself out of my shell to do. So it was very much the first seeds of that. For the most part, they were pretty into it. I was very, very lucky that they put up with my shenanigans. I think, especially when we were quite young, they were very on board with playing, imagination-y based games. And then as we got a little bit older and got closer to puberty, it kind of segregated a little bit. The boys went off and did their sport things and the girls were playing with Barbies, and it became very, stereotypical in that sense. But up until that point, it was very fun. We were all just kind of doing whatever.
My name's Lori Goldblatt, and I am Maxie Dara's mom. I have the honor of being her mom, so I have a younger one as well. Maxie has a sister. So aside from being a mother, I am a life cycle doula. And I've come up with that name because I'm a birth doula, but I'm also a death doula. And so I work with people across the lifespan and honor milestones, really celebrate and honor and sometimes mourn the different times of life that are challenging.
I mean, I think at first, you meet somebody who's so smiley and has this really innate kindness to them, and you're just drawn to it because you're oh, this person is so kind and they're so lovely to be around. So I definitely noticed that. And then obviously now that we're closer friends, it's something that we talk about because we make a joke about how in public she's just out in the world, always smiling, people always are coming up to her, and I kind of have a little bit more of a resting bitch face. So it's the contrast is kind of funny because I'm closed off and I'm yes, I like you, and then we're good, but if you're a stranger, stranger danger, so. But she feels that internally, but externally she's very very much yes, please come talk to me. So
I am Jess Clement. I am an actor. I'm the founder of Hamlin Acting Studio, and I'd like to think that I'm one of Maxie's best friends. Well, I'd first heard from Maxie because I posted somewhere that I wanted to start these classes. I think it was a Google form, and she filled it out, and then I think she emailed me at midnight being is this class full or something? And I was hey, a fellow night owl. I don't know how professional it is to respond to an email like that at midnight, but I did. And she responded right back, and then she signed up for my class, and I was dope. So yeah, I met her for the first time in class. I took to her right away just like everyone else did. She acted and she just had this charisma on camera that you just automatically fall in love with her as a character. You root for her, and this contagious smile.
So back when Jess first started the studio, I was one of her first students. I was there for the first acting workshop or intensive. It was about a month, every weekend. We all met and we did scene work and we did a short film at the end, and it was so much fun. And at the time, I didn't really know Jess beyond her being my coach, but she'd given us all her number just in case we needed to reach out for anything. And we kind of had a little bit of a group chat going on, a few of the girls and I, with her. Fast forward a few months, and we'd hung out a few times outside of the coaching, but that, just kind of in a group setting. And then I got dumped. And I texted the group chat. I was crying at Starbucks. And I texted the group chat and I was guys, I just got dumped. Is anybody around?
Greg and I were coming home from seeing my godmother, who I don't see very often, and she's my godmother through my mom, so super important. She's a connection that I still have to my mom. And she was talking a lot about the role that my mom played in her life and the role that she hopes I play in people's lives, and how her door was always open. She was always a shoulder to cry on and all that stuff. And then we got this text from Maxie in the group chat, I just got dumped. If anyone's around, I'd love to cry on your couch. And it played with Siri out loud in the car, and Greg and I were yep. And so we messaged her back. We said, we'll be home in 5 minutes. Come on over. She was I'm not going to be very pleasant to be around right now. I just don't really want to be alone crying at Starbucks. And I was yeah, for sure. Don't worry. And she still was pleasant to be around. That's actually when I got to know her and decided that we were going to be best friends.
And she was the first to respond. She lives directly across the street from the Starbucks. She was come over. So I went over, and immediately her and Greg embraced me in a huge hug. And for the next week, every single day, I was crying on their couch, and they just kind of babysat my heart. Well, it healed back up, and then we just became super close and started hanging out all the time. And as a result, she included me in other aspects of the studio besides just being a student. She would often have me just as a companion on when she was teaching and let me help out with that. And eventually that led to co-writing the shorts with Rochelle, who had already been doing it and who was gracious enough to let me join in. And then the three of us became inseparable, and then it all just kind of snowballed from there.
I'm Rochelle Zalter. I'm a local filmmaker, writer and director, and I'm also a close friend of Maxie, and we often worked on projects together, mostly screenwriting and other fun writing projects. We met at a reading for See to Sew, which is a show that Jess created, and I was writing an episode for it that I think was what the reading was for. And Maxie knew Jess already through Paramount Acting Studio, and so she came to give her kind of opinions as a writer. And I remember her being there, and we connected because we both somehow realized that we were both originally like family from Montreal and writers and Jewish, and we were like, oh, we have a lot in common. And then I wasn't sure if I was ever going to see her again, and then just happened to be that she continued to do some things with Jess, and there was overlap, and then it was very quickly we realized that we wanted to be friends.
One thing that I know that I do well that actually stems from my mom, which is what See to Sew is about, is bringing people together. And so I love whenever, students of mine or friends of mine become friends with each other. But I love it. I'm like, if you are hanging out because of me, like, that's super cool.
I mean, she uses the expression, they're soul sisters. It's like they're soulmates, but in friendship form. It was such a joy when she found this community of friends who are in the arts community, because they share so much reality together, so much in common.
When I first met her, I was like immediately aware of how easy it was to talk to her, and that's like super rare. So I knew immediately, I was like, oh, this is cool. I don't know if I'm ever gonna see this girl again, but she's awesome, And then yeah, for sure, there were like all these small things that happened over like getting to know her more and being like, oh, we are very similar in more ways than I even realized, and like we really get each other. And she like brings like just like an ease and a calmness to my life that's really nice. So I think like I think she's just like, it didn't take long for me to realize that I wanted her to be my best friend, and then I think I wiggled my way in.
Yeah, I'm very happy that they've developed this really connected way of working, because they work together, right? They're writing together. Maxie acts and Rochelle directs her. Like, there's a lot of respect towards each other around their talents, their skills, their gifts, and they really champion each other. It's just really beautiful to see that. And they really care about each other as people. Yeah.
I mean, she's had a very large impact on my life. I honestly have no idea where my both my creative and my personal life would be if I hadn't met Maxie. I think that she, like I said, has helped me become like a better person, and she's like a rock in my life, somebody I can always depend on, like when I'm going through hard stuff. I don't know who I used to, obviously I have other people in my life, but she's a huge part of like that for me, like the person I turn to when I'm having a tough go at things. But also she just like brings the fun and brings like, enriches my life with so many different things. And then on top of that, I think that she has completely transformed like who I am as a writer and like the type of projects I take on. And I've just learned so much from her. For me, it was very much when we were filming Late Bloomers, it was all encompassing and just so overwhelming. And there were so many times when I was like mentally like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. And I was like always going to Maxie as my kind of like comfort and through all of it. And she was very like supportive, like endlessly willing to drop anything to come and help or to talk through the challenges of it all. And then obviously on top of it, she was also acting in it and writing in it and like helping out with all the like practical stuff that we needed too. So she was like always there throughout the whole process. And it just made me know, even though I already knew, but like to another level, I realized that like she's the type of person that no matter what, if you need her, she's there for you.
These are friends for life. And it makes me feel this sense of comfort knowing that I can like grow old with these girls. It's nice to know that A, we're not alone and we all feel that way. And B, there's just a sense of comfort knowing that they will be there.
I read to her all the time, even when she was still in utero.
For as long as I can remember, I've loved stories. I know my parents used to read to me from the time I was literally in the womb, straight up until I could read myself, and then I would spend hours and hours just reading on my own.
A lot of Robert Munsch stuff, so very fantasy kind of based things.
I remember my mom reading Robert Munsch to us, and Love You Forever in particular, she would cry every time.
My favorite story that I read to her, both my kids would laugh, and because it would make me cry, is I Love You Forever, the Robert Munsch. You must know that one. And when I got to the part where the father is now carrying the mother, I can't remember how it goes now, but it was sad. But when I read that book to them, and especially to Maxie, I think they loved seeing me, like, they couldn't quite figure out why I was so touched by the book, but there was something very meaningful in that.
I think that really impacted me because it was the first time I was made aware that storytelling could have such an emotional impact and could shape, just the way that somebody feels in a moment in such a deep way. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could remember the name of the story, but I remember there was one specific story that my dad would read to my sister and I. And it was all about monkeys there's monkeys on the bed, and I don't remember, it was like almost like a rhyme. And he would read it and he'd make all these voices and like characters with it. The laughter that my dad's storytelling would have, and then the emotion of my mom's, like Giving Tree and Love You Forever. It just really impacted how I saw stories and their impact and their importance in life.
She had a lot of empathy from a really young age. Like kids, I was told in my work that I do that it takes until about 6 or 7, 8 for most kids to really learn empathy for others. And when she was very young, she was like 2.5, 3. I had been a teacher, but then I did intergenerational programs. We were living in Montreal at the time. And I was hired to do intergenerational programming from a senior center. And so part of what I did was I helped run a nursery. So she would come with me to the nursery. And I brought in different people as well. So there was older adults that came and volunteered with the kids, so they would help take care of the kids. But I had themes, and I wanted the kids and the adults to be open to meeting people from all different walks of life. And there was one woman who came that we went to pick her up. She was blind. And we brought her to our program, and she spoke, and she showed her dog and her cane. And Maxie just watched me interacting with her. And I remember she was like 2.5. And I took her back home, and she said, "Mommy, you're so nice." Like she was so touched, and she was so touched by this lady, but I think she was moved by watching how I was with her. She was an observer. So like when she was in kids programs, she wasn't the first kid to jump in and try things, like in gymnastics. She would watch until she felt comfortable. She kind of was like, I'm gonna get the lay of the land, and then I'll be okay to go in. But it took her a while sometimes, so she was like an observer always, of people, characters, trying to find the meaning of things, like she was trying to sort things out. So, I mean, yeah, again, when I think back, there were probably lots of places in her life from a young age where she showed, those skills and those things that now really serve her in her craft, right?
I remember even as a teenager, I would get in trouble because it would be a beautiful day outside and I would just be holed up inside for like 8 hours at a stretch, just reading. And I think falling in love with stories and and these worlds that they could take you to, it just really shaped me, because it was like no matter what I was going through in my life, no matter what my own personal experiences were in the moment, I could escape. I could go anywhere. I could be anyone for that amount of time. And I think then that sort of spilled over into me wanting to make those stories for myself and be able to decide, okay, it's like a choose your own adventure. Writing and acting and all of that, it's basically like one big choose your own adventure.
Surprisingly was pretty quiet. I think that's just a nerds thing. You don't know a lot of people. I was also pretty quiet, but yeah, what I liked about Hamon is there's like it very quickly gets rid of that awkwardness. And so there would be times I would be talking and she would make a laugh or a comment, and it just, you get to know the people that like it's okay to interact with. You know, you don't have the awkward social anxiety. So yeah, that was kind of like my first impressions was, oh, this is someone easy to talk to, easy to approach, easy to jive with. So yeah.
People don't realize the like depth and rawness and like honesty of her, and like the interesting, like, you know, perceptions she has on people and under her understanding of the world. Like, I think she comes off as somebody who is like so kind and polite, and there's like this other side to her. Not to say that it's like, oh, she's not kind or polite, but that there's like depth and perceptiveness that she has that I think is kind of like really, really cool about Maxie. And I mean, if you read her books or her screenplays, you'll see that side of her, like the like kind of darker side, but like in a great way, I think. And so I think that's something that comes out the more you get to know Maxie, but also if you read her stuff, which you should.
When she was a baby, she was still in her crib. And I remember we had the baby monitor. We didn't have the video monitors like they have now, but we had the audio monitor in her room. And she would get up in the morning and I'd hear her speaking words that she had heard the day before, like new words. It's like she was practicing language. Like she literally was in her crib and I'd hear her saying furniture or, I don't know, movement, or like these difficult kind of words, and practicing them. So it was like, oh, I wonder what she's going to do with that, because she just has this way of being so articulate. So I think that was already a stamped kind of thing from a very young age, that she was meant to go into the arts and meant to express herself with words. And she did write her first book. I don't know if she shared this with you, when she was 7. So she homeschooled a little bit with me. Like we did a bit of, she was in school, she homeschooled a bit. And during the year she homeschooled, I used to be an elementary school teacher, but I would bring in kind of where she was interested, and we would create craft stories together. So she would, before she could write, she would say the story and I would write it down for her, and then she'd create. But when she was 7, she actually wrote a book called Tracy the Tooth. And it was about her fear of death. It was about a tooth that was afraid to fall out of the mouth and leave its tooth family. It was afraid to leave and have that transition happen. So it's kind of cool that that was already like a seed planted, I think, for her. Like she already, yeah, and it was a beautiful, actually, I hope she does publish it one day, because it's a great story for kids.
Tracy the Tooth, yeah, my first attempt at storytelling myself. And I think it was very much, you know, representative of where I was in my life, but again, through a lens that made it feel a little bit removed. So I was 7 years old. I was, on the cusp of double digits and, growing up. And I think there was a lot of excitement around that and also a lot of trepidation. And so I decided to explore that through a baby tooth who was afraid to fall out of its mouth and come back as an adult tooth. And that was kind of the premise. And it was all about her journey through that, that coming of age time, as all teeth have, building up the courage to grow up. My best friend at the time said she wanted to be an actor when she grew up. And I was like, oh, interesting. I never would have thought of that. if she's doing this, then I want to do it too. And even though it was scary, the want to be like her surpassed the fear for me in terms of my priorities. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it because she's doing it. And then the school play rolled around and we both auditioned. She got the lead, I got more of a character role, and I had so much fun just getting to be absolutely unhinged on stage. And then when the next play rolled around, we auditioned again and I got the lead. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, wait, I actually really like this as a thing. This is actually something I could do. This isn't just for fun. I mean, it was a school play, but in my brain it was like, this is the real deal. And it just kind of completely rewired my brain in terms of how I approach things that would be uncomfortable, things that are, standing on a stage in front of tons of strangers. And then from there, I went on to study at this theater company that I think is no longer in Hamilton that just did Shakespeare. And I was like, okay, this is how you become an actor. You're learning the craft. And I did that for a while. And then I started studying film when I was about 15, 16, like film acting at a film acting school in Toronto. And I just kind of ping-ponged back and forth between theater and film ever since.
Well, hey, I'm Brett. I'm an actor from the Hamilton area and happy to be here doing this. It would have been a couple of years ago, Hamont Acting Studio. I'm sure it was probably one of the drop-in classes, Actors Gym, where she came with Jess to hang out and probably met her that way, yeah. My first time seeing her act actually caught me off guard. We were in class and oddly enough, we both had auditions for the same project. Hers was the female lead and then there was 4 male characters that she was like kind of up against. And I was one of those. So because I was there, I was like, oh, I'll read for you. We'll do this. And watching her do this scene blew me away. I was like not expecting that level of performance. Because when you go in, you don't know anyone. You have to go in with a level of confidence where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm at this level as an actor. I don't know where everyone else is at. So you don't really know what to expect. And then, yeah, I watched it and it was just dynamic and alive. And I was like, oh my goodness, like Hamont's got some heavy hitters. I was like, okay. Yeah, so that was the first time seeing her perform. Yeah.
And her shoe flies off and lands in the lap of the guy in front of me. And she just kept going. Like nothing, like it was, she was so professional. At the end, when she came out to take her bow, we put the shoe, was at the intermission, we put the shoe back on the stage and someone took it for her. But at the end, when she came out to take her bow, she took the shoe off and she held it up just so proud of herself that she was able to go on. And the shoe that caused, and it was just a moment of, oh my gosh, she's such a star. Like she's so comfortable with that happening and then make it kind of a joke. And yeah.
Yes. I was in a production of Pride and Prejudice. It was like I don't know how familiar you are with the story, but there's a scene where this really obnoxious guy, a cousin of the protagonist, is proposing to her. I was playing Elizabeth Bennet, the protagonist, and in the staging of the play that we did, it's kind of a mini chase scene almost, where she's like trying to get away from him around the couch and he's following her and there's a bit of a back and forth. And the shoes that I was wearing in that scene were too big for me. And I'm sort of running away from this guy, and in the middle of the scene, mid-run, my shoe goes flying and lands in the crotch of a man in the front row. It was definitely a highlight of my theater career.
My gosh, there's been a lot. I think that moment with the shoe was one just because I thought, what an amazing way to handle life, like the challenges that come. Like to me, that was a metaphor for how, and she's had to meet lots of her own personal challenges. So I think the proudness or the pride comes from seeing her rise above the challenges and to create the life she's looking for. It's not the typical life that a lot of people lead. And I'm so supportive of that.
When I was 14, I had just finished a Shakespeare camp, like a summer camp, and I auditioned for a production of, this isn't a theater, I can say it, I auditioned for Macbeth, which is a very superstitious name to say, but I'm not in a theater, so I can say it. I got one of the witches. It was, you know, at the time, the most expensive production I'd been a part of. It was not at school, it was actually just like a production for the community. And we ended up putting it on, we did 2 different rounds of it, and it made me feel like, wait, this is what I want to do forever. This is so much fun, and this feels possible all of a sudden to be more than just, you know, something to do as a laugh. Oh yeah, I've had lots of moments of doubt. I still have them constantly. I think it's such a competitive industry, and it's such there's a lot of, I don't know, there's just a lot of judgment, and it's hard to feel good enough, especially when you already come from a place of a lot of insecurities. When I was a teenager, I was taking film acting classes in Toronto, and the guy who ran the studio, who I really looked up to and respected, basically told me that I wasn't pretty enough to make it anywhere in the industry. And you know, when you're a teenager, that is basically make or break in your brain for whether or not it's you know, whether or not you have worth in something, in anything. So even though that wasn't directly connected to my acting talent, it was still a big blow to my perceived ability to make it in the industry. And I think honestly what has kept me acting, even though I've kind of gone back and forth in and out of it, has just been my love of it. Like every time I step away and I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore because it's too competitive, because there's such a focus on, you know, appearance, because of this, because of that. Give it a year and I'm like jumping out of my skin. I need to get back into it. It's so embedded in me to do.
I think she's done it a little bit in theater, but I think like in terms of film, she hasn't yet shown somebody who can be like really, really bitchy. And I think she could do a really good job of that. So I'd love to see her do it. She also, I know she can do like an RP accent. And I think that would be really fun for her to like do a little bit of like accent work in a future role. I don't know if you ask this question to her because she's gonna maybe say the same things as me. But yeah, I think that there's like a lot she still could explore as an actor, and I feel like she has such a wide range that it would be awesome.
It's so fun to play. It's so fun to play angry. I think my identity definitely influences the characters I'm drawn to, insofar as I always am drawn to the opposite. I love playing really ruthless characters. I love playing really bold characters. Anything that I kind of have, you know, as we all do, but don't tap into on a daily basis, because, you know, we all have the same sort of makeup in terms of we all have the capacity for anger and to be, you know, cruel and to be kind and to be whatever. But there's, you know, we all tap into those to different degrees. And the stuff that I touch the least in my actual life is the stuff that I'm most drawn to play, because it's in a safe environment. You know, if screaming at people isn't something, you know, that you want to do on a daily basis, but it's so fun to just let loose in an environment that is controlled. So I love the opportunity to do those kinds of roles.
I think a lot of it is tied to her writing, because she understands a story and a character in a way that, like, not to say you have to be a writer to be a good actor, absolutely not, but Maxie just like always like really seems, she understands people so well, and she's so perceptive. And I think that comes out in both her writing and her acting. And so when she takes on a character, like, she gets the nuances of that character. She like can, without having to like, you know, be overly expositional in the writing. She's like, I know what they're actually saying here. Like, I can bring that out without being overly overt with the writing. Like, she knows, she gets it, you know, she gets it in a way not every actor gets in quite the same way. So she's got that. I think that really brings like a depth to every role she does and makes them like, you know, fully dimensional characters.
What I think sets Maxie apart is that she's been telling stories for so many years that she not only does that now through her writing career, but also is able to embody the storytelling through her acting. and body language. That's what stands out the most. It's challenging in a way, in the best way, to work with and work together on a project with someone who's that naturally gifted, because you're like, holy smokes, like I have to bring my A game or I'm gonna be swallowed up in this. So yeah.
I think actually, like when I think of when she was Elizabeth in Pride and Prejudice, and in some of the films too that she's done, it's like she's showing parts of herself that are cool to see, because I've seen maybe a lot of who she is, but there are places as a mom where I don't see, right? Like just the passionate, you know, expressions, and yeah, so it's neat to see that. She took her time with things. She was mindful about the people that she chose to have in her life. I would say her biggest challenge was her lack of confidence in herself and trusting herself in terms of like that she had lots to offer people. So there was a bit of shyness. There was a bit of like, you know, being the observer, like a little bit of maybe that. There wasn't big challenges really with them in terms of like where I was really worried about. I actually really trusted them. And I think because of that, we had a very close relationship, but also they trusted themselves and their ability to make good decisions. Yeah.
Looking back, I would say that I would tell my younger actor self that it's okay to take risks. You can plan a performance to the syllable, and then it's going to feel like you planned it to the syllable. The best way that I, like my process now, that I feel like actually works for me, is to just learn the story, the words, the journey, and then just be in the moment and let it happen. And I wish I'd given myself the permission to do that growing up.
Hi everyone, I'm Rochelle and I'm the director and co-writer of Late Bloomers.
Hi, I'm Maxie. I am also the co-writer of Late Bloomers, and I play Noli.
And I'm Brett, and I play Owen. Well, we had caught wind that there was going to be a feature, and I expressed significant interest just in a general capacity with Jess and with people at the school. They actually contacted me and said, hey, we're doing this feature. Would you consider auditioning for the lead? And I said, yeah, I will. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Just enjoyed the project, enjoyed the collaborative efforts with the script and everything throughout the whole process. And yeah, the rest is history.
Late Bloomers, TBD if there's a title change, but it is a romantic comedy that centers around two childhood friends who make a pact when they're children that if neither of them are married by the time they turn 35, they'll marry each other. And so the movie starts with them about to be turning 35, and it's all about them setting each other up on a bunch of dates to try to avoid marrying each other. And along the way, they, realize that they have feelings for each other.
She just, like, as Noli, is this like lovable, chaotic mess. Yeah, you'll have to watch the film to understand.
So this scene is a breakup scene. I have to break the heart of a very sweet...
Oh, I love Chris.
Man.
Chris is
I
great.
can't not love Chris. Yeah, he's the best, and I have to go...
But he's not Owen, so...
He's not Owen, so I have to tell him it just isn't meant to be, unfortunately.
Oh, so I have to ask, is there tears?
There are going to be some tears. And Riley, who is here doing my makeup, I apologize for that. I will try to keep them contained so that there's not a lot of smudging, but there will be tears, at least on my end.
Oh, come on. We know Chris is going to cry. You cry. And half the crew.
Well, it's not in the script for him to cry, but I feel like on behalf of the relationship that we've had, he really should.
Probably.
Yeah. For, he's heartbroken. This is the scene where I realize that my heart just isn't in it with Chris, and that isn't fair to keep him sort of on the hook because it's not him. It was never going to be him. So for something like this, I'm kind of going to wait until I'm closer to the moment, and then I'm just going to really get into the head of, you know, where Noli is at. She's kind of not even thinking about Chris at the beginning of the scene because she's too hung up on where things are with Owen. And then she realizes, you know, oh, that's where my heart is, so I can't keep stringing along this guy, so I'm gonna kind of go on the journey with her. So it was actually Rochelle and Mike who came up with the initial premise about a pact and two friends who were nearing the time where that pact was meant to come into play, and it kind of just evolved from there. We knew we wanted to subvert a lot of the expectations and a lot of the tropes of rom-coms. So when we were actually sitting down to write it, we were trying to think, okay, what are ways that we can approach this that maybe address some of the problematic behaviors of the characters, instead of just saying, hey, you know, they're just not with the right people so they can do whatever they want to get there. But the initial seed came from Rochelle and Mike, which I love because their love story is so cute, so them coming up with a love story. So Rochelle and I have written a decent amount together at this point, and we have a really great writing
I'd say you two are pretty tight, so that really helps with collaborating something like that.
Absolutely, and I feel like our brains work very similarly in a lot of ways, but then differently because she comes from the romantic comedy world and I don't, and I come from more novels and she's more screenwriting, so we kind of fill in a lot of gaps for each other, which is great. So when we're writing, we sit down and we talk things out and kind of plot things out, and then we'll typically split it up. So she wrote the first half of this, and then I wrote the second, and then we kind of traded our work, made changes to, you know, what we were given, and it just kind of fused together from there.
So that was my next question. How do you duke it out when you're positive your line is better than hers and she feels the same?
Honestly, we've never had that. It's been so collaborative, and we always sort of hear each other out, and if one of us says, oh, actually maybe this might work better, the other one is usually like, oh, actually that's a really good point, I could see that.
Yeah, we've co-written a lot of projects together, and it's just always very, very easy to co-write with her. We always joke about like sharing a brain, which honestly in some ways I think we do. We just get each other so completely that when we write together, it feels very natural to kind of take it on and be like, I'll write this section, you write this section, and then we'll reconvene. Often what we'll do is like we'll kind of like start off together, just like mapping out the world, figuring out the beats and like what might happen, but with like the freedom to always be like, okay, if we like need to change things when we're in it, we'll change it, because both Maxie and I kind of like to have freedom when we write and not be like stuck to the beats we, you know, essentially carved out at the beginning. And then when we write together, like I think that we just sort of take it piece by piece and then come back together and find the story together. And it was, yeah, just like every other time, it was very simple and like natural to do that, writing Late Bloomers with her. I think in the end, like we both kind of found the story together, and it wouldn't have been, I don't think, as good if we had done it on our own.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there is the symbiotic relationship that they have. It's almost like they're in each other's heads sometimes, and they see the pathway kind of being so similar. They may write it in a little bit of a different flavor style, but not even. Like, I feel like they really find a way to really blend their styles and their expression, and yeah, find the characters together.
Let's get Slade in.
Good?
You can closer. Yeah.
Feats. Okay, scene 76 Alpha, take one.
Okay. Fine. You good?
Huh?
This isn't about the other night still, is it?
What? No, I'm totally fine. It's good coffee.
You haven't taken a sip. This isn't gonna work, is it?
I'm so sorry. I really wanted it to.
Me too.
Okay, let's reset and do it again.
Are those beats enough for
Yeah, that felt really natural.
That's okay? Okay.
This isn't about the tonight's.
No, I'm totally fine. Good coffee.
You haven't even taken a sip. This isn't gonna work, is it?
I'm so sorry, Chris. I really wanted it to.
Me too.
Cut. This time when he says this isn't gonna work, you have been doing like a closing of your eyes thing,
Okay.
which I think is probably gonna be what we use, but I just want a different version
Yeah.
where it's where there's like a little bit less of that.
Sure.
What do you call it? That like that moment. It's a natural instinct, and I like it. But just because we have time, let's do another version.
This isn't gonna work, is it?
I'm so sorry, Chris. I really wanted it to.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, perfect.
Great stuff.
That was pretty cool.
Thank you.
And the sun backlight
Sun
is.
is a paid actor.
Yeah, nature was really flexing the cameo today.
So we talked a little bit about how you prepped for that scene. How do you feel that scene went, breaking his heart?
Well, it's sufficiently broken. Yeah. No, it was really nice. It was nice to be able to. We were just talking about how like these kinds of scenes are always, as an actor, you want to kind of explore that.
Yeah,
that
rawness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'd imagine on a really good, energetic scene, it's hard to come down from the high. Is it hard to get back up from this low?
It
Like,
can
you
be.
both look pretty devastated. And you're.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I think now it's just like, okay, doing the work to snap out of it and come back into to real life.
And of course, the next, I don't know what the next scene is, but
pretty lighthearted.
the next scene can be totally the opposite,
Yeah.
so you got to shift gears pretty quickly. So
Yeah. Sorry about it.
It's okay. No, it's these kinds of scenes. Like afterwards, I always find if you have like a good humor thing you can do afterwards. If there's like a
just snap
joke
out
or
of it,
something,
yeah.
you get a chance to jump back to reality a bit.
Yeah.
But
Well, I know when Brett and I do the like intimacy scenes, we clap. We like high five.
Oh, the high five, yeah.
That's like our on and off switch.
Yeah.
So maybe that's we can do like an elbow or something for the emotions.
I love it.
I mean, I think I was like immediately drawn to it and was like, oh, it's so unique and fresh, but it's also like telling a story that feels honest and real and like not, I don't know, it's like surprising in the best way. Like it's fresh, but it still has like this comfort to it. And I think, and like the humanness that I'm looking for in a story. So I feel like all of the things I've read of hers have that in common. Like she brings like heart to a story in a really beautiful way, but also like really interesting characters that you don't often see.
I think the sky's the limit for her in whatever she wants to do. I'm very, very fortunate and blessed to have been trusted with being able to read some of her books that have not yet come out in early stages. I'm very grateful that she trusted me with that, and all I can say is like the best is yet to come for her. As a writer, absolutely, but even as an actress, she will go as far as she wants to go, because yeah, she's just a force of nature, and you know, I really hope that she knows and can grow to value and respect and own that about herself, the way that like we all do that know her and love her and know what she is. And I hope she does too.
All right, so we're in Limeridge Mall. We're at Cole's bookstore. Maxie Dara is here. Launch of her brand new book.
I'm overwhelmed and extremely proud of her. I think she put so much effort into this. She's been doing this since she was 8 years old. She's been a writer for as long as I can remember. And she's worked very hard. She just looks for doors to open, and she keeps finding them and opening them up and seeing what's on the other side. And she's been finding some great things. So I'm extremely proud of her and hope that this book keeps going on.
It's so surreal. I'm very excited, and I'm also pinching myself because this is something I've been dreaming about my whole life. So the fact that it's actually happening, it's a little unbelievable still.
I'm feeling so celebratory with her. Like she's just worked so hard for this, and she's got so much going on right now. I feel like she's really found her wings, and she's just taking off and flying, which is so exciting to see. I just love her, and she's great, and I'm so happy for her.
I couldn't be more grateful that this is happening, truly.
While we're here, how about I get you to sign my book before everyone else shows up?
I would be honored. I can't stop blushing. Do you do selfie? You could if you want to. Should we try? Truly, I know the book is dedicated to her. This is very surreal in the best possible way. So the excerpt I'm going to read for you guys today, basically our protagonist, Kathy, is a modern day Grim Reaper. It's a very corporate job, and she goes and collects souls. But on one occasion, the soul that she's trying to collect isn't there, And so she has to go to her boss and explain the situation because that is not supposed to happen. So that is sort of the setup for the following scene. I'm going to try to project, but if anybody can't hear me, feel free to squeeze on in. Squeeze, okay. I slid into the office. Kathy, Stu said by way of greeting. Stu, I replied. Mr. Calhoun, I corrected quickly, blinking hard in a futile effort to etch-a-sketch away my slip-up. Stu was only Stu when you weren't talking directly to Stu. What can I do for you? Stu eyed me with his usual cool blue intensity, his over-attended muscles flexing impatiently beneath his pale button-up. I watched a bicep bounce, and for a moment I swore the sound of it rubbing against Stu's shirt sleeve was a sigh of disappointment. Well, I started, still eyeing that bicep in case it had anything else to add. One of my scheduled collections today didn't go according to plan. This has never happened to me before, and it's been years since I was in training, so I need a bit of a refresher on protocol. Stu pulled a stress ball from a drawer in his desk and squeezed, his massive hand enveloping the little ball until all that remained was a tight fist.
Didn't go according to plan.
According to
How?
Plan, how?
The client. I held up the file. He wasn't there. Stu's knuckles whitened. Wasn't there? I shook my head. So you didn't collect the client? No, I said. I see. The bicep jumped again. I jumped slightly with it. Talking to Stu always put me on edge. He was disconcertingly good-looking in the sort of way that reminded me I was a pear-shaped 42-year-old near-divorcee, and yet he was perpetually disapproving in a way that made me feel like a first grader who'd just been caught eating crayons. It made for an awkward position to be in under the best of circumstances, and this was not the best of circumstances. I'm sorry, I whimpered at the bicep. This, he tossed the stress ball into the other hand, which promptly ate it, is unprecedented under my leadership. No client has gone uncollected for as long as I've been here.
My parents would read to me from the time I was literally in the womb, so storytelling was already such a part of my life. When I realized that this was something that I could do, that I had all these stories in my head and I could also tell them, when I was about 7, that was kind of, I think, it just became this outlet for the creativity that was just kind of innate in me that I think we all kind of have to a degree as kids. And because stories and books and you know, that form of storytelling was so prevalent in my life as a kid because of, you know, the reading that my parents would do to me growing up, and then as soon as I could read myself, I would be in bed for hours reading. It just seemed like a natural progression to then try it for myself. Obviously, I started writing short stories as a 7-year-old, which is very pretentious, I realize. And then when I hit, you know, around 12, I started writing longer fiction. I would write, you know, the first few chapters of a novel, and then I'd give up and be a kid. And then when I was around 16 or so, that's when I started writing actual novel-length novels. And I completed my first when I think it was in my first year of university, which was wild because I was also learning how to be a university student at the time. You know, that was always kind of this would be a great life path, but it doesn't feel very realistic kind of a situation. And then when I was 18, I had been a volunteer the year before at the Hamilton Fringe Festival. I had some friends that were in it, and that kind of opened my eyes to the accessibility of theater. So I decided to write, I took a poem that I'd already written, a long form poem, and I converted it into a play that I directed for the Fringe Festival when I was 18, and it did really well, which was crazy. And then that kind of made me realize that this was another avenue of storytelling that I could sort of travel down, and that was so exciting to me because it hadn't really been on my radar previously. I'd done theater for years as an actor, but the idea of creating it felt very new to my little 18-year-old brain. And then I kind of put that aside for a while after that first play, and I went to university and did that for a while and did novels because it was just easier to do in you know, amidst the schoolwork. And then in my mid-20s, I was like, I want to write a musical. This was during the you know, the Hamilton the musical craze, and I was like, well, I want to do that. And then I wrote my first musical, and I also directed that for a Fringe Festival, and it won Best of the Fest, which made me be like, okay, this is an avenue I can actually continue down. And so I did, and I wrote a few more plays after that. I think death has always been a subject that has frightened me, as I think it does for a lot of people, but I think for some reason as a kid, I was already quite aware of the subject and quite afraid of it. And even, like, I couldn't even watch Casper or Scooby-Doo because it just scared me too much. And then as a teenager, I guess like a late teenager, my mom became a death doula. And so then it became a very prominent theme in my life. And I think, as with anything in writing, it's writing is a form of catharsis and a way to approach difficult topics in a more palatable way. So when it came to writing a novel, I was like, okay, what's a subject I would like to explore in a way that feels, safe for me? And death came a knockin'. My main goal one of my main goals when I first wrote the first book, because originally it was not a series, was just to approach this huge, unknown, this concept that we all sort of face and fear and have questions about in the most banal and mundane, palatable way possible. And so that's why I shoved it into an office, because that is something that is also universal, but in a very benign way. And so I wanted to create this juxtaposition of this big cosmic concept with the most basic, boring part of human existence, and then to stack adventure and suspense and mystery on top of that, because again, you have this very bland gray backdrop of an office building, and you can do so many fun things when you have such a blank canvas. So I kind of, each story builds upon that juxtaposition. And I also wanted to explore characters who would be, the kind of people who would be attracted to this very bizarre, morbid line of work, because I find that fascinating, who would populate these cubicles. The Scythe acronym came down purely to my embarrassing love of wordplay. This was going to be tonally quite a fun, lighthearted book, or at least in parts. And so I wanted the corporation representing death to play into that. So I actually had the word Scythe well before the acronym, and it took a while to come up with the acronym, but it came about purely because I wanted it to be a pun.
When you're telling an honest story, a little bit of yourself comes into everything you do,
I would say the protagonist of my novel is definitely quirky in her own ways. And there's definitely, in every character I write, there's elements of me. I think that's a part of the writing process. It's the write what you know aspect. But I think she is very much a distinct character in her own right. Yes, she has a lot of insecurities, and as do I, and yes, she has a lot of quirks. But I think her journey and her personality deviate from mine quite a bit. And I think that's why I really liked writing her. So this is A Grim Reaper's Guide to Cheating Death. They're set in the same universe. They're still working at Scythe, although it's a different branch. But basically, I wanted to create a series where initially you wouldn't have to read them in order. You wouldn't even have to read them at all. You could just do it one as a standalone if you wanted to. So book 2, A Grim Reaper's Guide to Cheating Death, is also about somebody who works at Scythe, but she's not a collections agent or Grim Reaper. She is an administrative coordinator. She is a very anxious person. She's got a lot of health anxiety specifically. Her parents died when she was very young, so she's terrified of death. And because she's terrified of death, she knows a lot about it. And because she knows a lot about it, she got the job at Scythe, and she took it because being close to death like that meant, it's like the whole keep your enemies closer philosophy. She could learn more about death by being that close to it, which is great until the day that her twin brother's name comes across her desk and she realizes he's going to die that day if she doesn't intervene. So going completely against company policy, she takes his file and grabs him, and they basically go on a road trip trying to escape death. And that's kind of the setup for book 2.
All of the books kind of have core relationships that really, really matter and mean something that aren't necessarily like romantic relationships. And she explores that really interestingly. Like, you know, in the first book with Kathy and Connor, you've got that kind of growth that they're both kind of finding each other or finding themselves through their relationship and their friendship. And so that happens. And I think that kind of happens definitely in the second book too, in brother-sister relationship. You know, they're finding each other and finding like a new life almost through going through hard things together. And I think the third book will also be doing that. So there's kind of like a coming of ageness to the story, even though they're not, you know, at that age, but there is that kind of energy, which I always love in a story within all of them. They also are very interesting because, you know, we're so used to exploring relationships, especially me as like a romantic comedy writer, that are romantic, and it's really cool to like look at how deep bonds can be that aren't necessarily like that like classic romantic bond. And I think all of them kind of maybe intentionally or unintentionally do explore that. Yeah, I think overall though they're new and different. The characters are different. I know in book 4, which she hasn't started writing yet, kind of a lot of the main characters are going to come back together, which is really exciting. But until then, yeah, there's a lot of like, you know, a lot of different characters that we're going to be exploring within the same world of Scythe, which is really cool. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the gist of it.
Threes. It's pretty good. Like, people are going to love it. So yeah, be excited.
Yeah, I think for me, I always delineate unintentionally between writer and author. And I think I've been a writer forever, but being an author is, you know, in my brain, the like professional novel writer. And that came about when I got my first contract, but it definitely took some time to overcome the imposter syndrome because I've been doing this all my life. And it's like, aside from the fact that now there's a contract involved, it didn't feel like there was a difference. So it's like, why should I suddenly see it as something different in my head or see myself as, you know, a step above where I was when I'm literally doing the same thing I've always done. So it took a while, and I still, to this day, despite having just finished my third book, that I know is going to see release, I still get into my head about, you know, with the imposter syndrome about, you know, I'm just doing what I've always done. I'm just little old me, you know, sitting behind a laptop typing away. So why, you know, it's still, there's still a little bit of that imposter syndrome, especially when I, you know, talk to people who are, you know, bestsellers or people who are more recognizable in the literary world or what have you. There's always that moment of like, oh, maybe I don't belong here. And I have to kind of retrain my brain to remind myself that this is something that this is the world that I'm now in fully. And, you know, there's definitely still imposter syndrome there.
I think you should take both of your books, hold them towards the camera, and say, I am an author. But more silly.
I'm an author. I finished my first full novel when I was, I think, early 20s. And this is actually I believe, third book that I've tried to sell. The first one I tried to sell was called Worst Case Scenario Boy. It was a middle grade mystery about I believe he was a 12 or 14-year-old boy who always catastrophizes everything, and in this one instance that becomes like his superpower. And by thinking about the worst case scenario, he's able to sort of track down the source of this mystery. So that was the first one that I tried to shop around. Didn't have any success. It's a very difficult industry to break into. So I shelved that. Then I wrote another one, which never really got a definitive title. I kind of oscillated between a bunch. And it was a fantasy comedy fairy tale. It was like an adult fairy tale, basically taking a lot of traditional fairy tale tropes and turning them on their head. It was about this princess who was decidedly not beautiful in any way, knew that she would just be used for her power. And so she escaped being a princess, realizes she made a huge mistake, and on her quest to try to reclaim the kingdom from this guy who's now overtaking it and doing a really bad job, she has to save all these damsels in distress. That was another one that I tried to sell. Again, didn't go anywhere with it. One of my best friends from my writing group is insistent that at some point I publish that one, so I might have to revisit it. And then I think there was one more in between. And then during the pandemic, I wrote A Grim Reaper's Guide to Catching a Killer. But that one felt different. When I finished that one, I just had this feeling that even though I was going back into the trenches with it, and I knew I'd face a lot of rejection because that is part of the game, unfortunately, I just felt like this might be the one that would actually go somewhere, and I was very, very lucky that that was right. There's a lot of, I don't even know if you call it Easter eggs, but in terms of whenever I'm describing, because each book is set in a different town, and I definitely pull from like the geography of areas around Hamilton, around Dundas, and even as far as Oakville, where I grew up, just in describing how these towns are laid out and, you know, the way that they're a little bit pocketed, especially in the first book. There's a lot of Hamilton/Dundas vibes in terms of just like, it's very pocketed. There's very different sort of feels to the different areas in the town, in the same way that you have when you go to downtown Hamilton versus to Dundas versus to Westdale. So there's definitely nods to that, because I don't name the towns in any of my books because I want to keep it sort of feeling universal. But there's definitely, if you read through, there's definitely nods to geography and just tone of our town. I have so many ideas floating around in my head. I have a pilot that I wrote a few years back that I would love to see come to fruition. Yeah, it's called Dispossessed, and it's basically about a bunch of ghosts who are unhappy staying ghosts, and they decide to possess people so that they can have a second life, and about the pitfalls of that and what happens when they sort of take on these bodies that are so different from who they are as people. I think that could be a lot of fun. I am currently working on a short that I'm hoping to use as a proof of concept, about the War of 1812 from the Canadian perspective, but it's like a satirical comedy. I have 1,000,001 ideas, and I'd love for one of them to sort of catch flight, burn into something that I can actually be a part of and make sort of a bit of a career off of. This is actually something I think about a lot, because I think I make a concerted effort to bring a lot of levity and a lot of just like friendliness and warmth to the world, because I feel like there's a lack of that a lot of times. And I think for a lot of people that comes across as maybe me not having a lot of depth and not having any struggles or even intellect, because I always try to have a smile, and I always try to greet people with warmth and counter as much of the darkness in the world as possible. And I think one thing that I would really love people to know about me is that there is, a lot more to me than a friendly face. And, I have a lot of very passionate opinions and that I can hold an intellectual conversation, hopefully, and that there's more to me than the smile. Because I think sometimes people see that and then minimize me as, a bubbly person without any substance. And that is the unfortunate flip side of trying to bring a lightness to interactions.
She is just such an incredible person who can do so many things, and yet she's so humble about it. I think it's really cool to have somebody like Maxie living in Dundas and being like, a local huge talent.
It's really tough. I don't know how you can condense someone so vastly and immensely talented into 2 words. I guess I'll just use that, immensely talented. Yeah.
One word? I mean, overall, I would say she's just like humble. Like beyond humble. And my second word, I think, because it might come as a surprise to people that meet her at first, would be deep. I think everything about her goes way deeper than you think at the beginning. She's obviously super kind and approachable and yeah, all of those fuzzy words. Patient, giving, caring, selfless, smart, witty, talented people on this planet. We're so lucky to have her in our lives, but there's so much more depth to that, and I think that you can see that in her writing because the characters have depth, and that comes from somewhere. Yeah.
Beyond her extreme talent, she's also just like somebody that is like infectious, and she's somebody that you, I think, will enjoy learning more about by watching this. So for me, I think it is only natural.
It's weird. We became so close on this film that there's not too much to uncover with regards to where I'm at and you know, what she means to me as a friend and fellow creative. So there's not a lot I can say that she doesn't already know, but you know, I'm privileged and I'm honored to have been some small part of what I can only hope is going to be this incredibly rich and storied life of hers that is only gonna get better as time goes on, and I'm just so thrilled that I was able to be a small part of it at some point in time. So.
Oh. Well, when I was just watching the beginning of it with you, it put me in this headspace of like, wow, how lucky are we to have not only somebody like Maxie like in this industry, but just like in this world, and to know her, because I hope that the people that come to see this are friends of her or people that know her as an acquaintance or know of her, but of course they will know her because Maxie will say hi and be a friend to anyone. I just think that she is a bit of like an unsung hero, and she'll never sing for herself because she cares too much about other people and is just way too humble and selfless. So I really like that we're finally acknowledging and letting other people know like how lucky we all are. Yeah, and I also hope that it just maybe inspires people to, first of all, just like be a really kind person, know that it doesn't go unnoticed, know how much of an impact it makes on people's lives, to hold their friends really close because they are like really important pieces of your life. And I also hope that it might inspire people to do something creative if they've ever wanted to, and to take the chance because something big might happen, or it might just be very cathartic. Yeah, and also just to like not take everything super seriously, because I think that that is something that Maxie delivers really well, is just like adding the light to every situation. Yeah, and being just like a super accepting and forgiving person. And I think if more people were like that, we would be in a really beautiful place.
You have a 4-book deal with Berkeley. You've got a feature that's coming out where you're like the star in it. And so like you've done such a good job with that project, like in every single way. Everything that she's done, like she's just excellent and she's so humble about it. So I think like hopefully when you watch this, you take away the fact that like this girl has done some really cool shit and she's awesome. She won't ever say that to you, but it's true.
always remember every step of the journey. And I think my message also to anybody else who is striving towards their dreams, this is something that I learned late in life. Celebrate every win, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in the big picture, and if I'm not at this goal, if I don't have a book published, then I'm a failure. But have you written a book? That's a win. Have you started submitting it? That's a win. Every step along the journey is something that you didn't have previously, and that so many other people who have those same dreams never get to. And it's just so important to see the progress.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you're doing this, and especially on someone who needs light shed upon her, because even though like she's becoming pretty well known as a writer, like there's so much more to her as a creative. Probably honestly like one of, if not the most naturally creative and gifted person I've ever met. So yeah, you picked a good subject for this doc for sure.
When I think of legacy, I look at the legacy of my lineage, and I look at my grandfather, my Zeta, my mom's mom, who to this day around Hamilton, if you mention his name, there will be so many people who will remember him for his kindness. And my mom has 100% carried on that legacy and is so warm and kind, and again, just like a very safe person for people. And I think for me, as the sort of third generation in this line, it feels very important to carry that legacy on as just like a kind person who people remember as, maybe them being, having a rough time or being in need of something, and stepping in and being there in that moment. And I just hope that I can carry that on from, 2 generations back.
So if I was talking to Maxie right now, I would say how much I love and admire you and keep on that road of integrity and doing what's important to you and being gentler, kinder with yourself. Yeah, love and accept yourself as you are right now, because everybody else does.